So in those, you ever notice in the places where you really want to accomplish things, people who are good at it. I mean, people like really good at it, but you're not. And the illusion I've discovered is for myself is that they're just born that way. Oh, they're just talented. I'm not that way. No, see, when I talk to people like that, I discover their relationship to setbacks, their relationship to failing is different than how it's been for me. And if I could relate to setbacks as a way to grow and develop and keep stepping in, then I'm on the path to being effective just like they are. And that's something I got to remind myself all the time, but that's in fact a fact.
One of the biggest things for people is fear. That's one of the biggest stops, hands down, for people is fear completely dictates the level to which they'll risk themselves, the level to which they'll go after what they're really committed to. And one of the powerful conversations we have in the Landmark Forum is people are able to discover a new relationship to fear that empowers them, where it's no longer the fear is the stop. They're able to permanently move beyond it, to have an expanded level of courage to take the risks that they're looking to take in the areas of life that matter most to them. And that is empowering for people.
And it's kind of an old cliche, but first of all, you got to love the life you're living. Because most people make the life that they're living a problem versus actually getting related to the life that they're living. And from there, then you can create something else, but you can't create anything else until you love the one you got. And this sounds kind of weird, but that's really what it comes down to. And once I get clear about the one I got, like my weight, I didn't love that my scale said 282, but I couldn't love what I was going to create until I first dealt with, heck, my scale said 282. Now I was wishing that I was 230 or 240, but it wasn't that. Because once I got 282 on the scale and stopped kicking the scale, then I could start to be with it and start to love the fact that I was now losing a pound or 3 at a time. And it's now down to 237 or 238. But that going to have to start with being okay with and dealing with where I was.
If we look, mostly we want our circumstances to change and then we'll be happier or more fulfilled or satisfied. Or, we want people to change. If my boss was just a bit more this, or if my partner was a bit more that, or maybe if I had a bit more money, or if I had some more time to myself, some more downtime. So mostly what we're looking is how we can change the circumstances around us, or we'd like the circumstances to change. Sometimes they do, Hey, sometimes you get lucky and you have a good day with your partner, or sometimes, find a bit more money in your bank account, or sometimes things go better at work, but they're just coincidental. What I'm pointing to here is you have an opportunity to look for yourself and see what's my relationship with my partner, or what's my relationship with my children, or my finances, or the people I work with. How am I being in these situations, and how am I acting in these situations? That gives you a lot more power to be able to see that maybe there's some way I'm being or some way I'm acting that if I could identify it, if I could distinguish it, if I could unconceal it, then I could transform it. If I could see maybe why I get annoyed, for example, what's the trigger that has me be annoyed in certain situations or with certain people? And I can see that, and I can see the grip it's had on me. Just the seeing of it in the first place loosens that grip and allows for a sort of freedom there. What we call allows for a possibility of something else being available in that area. So you're not constrained by whatever it was that you couldn't see.
Like one of the biggest things people deal with is that they think they have to compromise to live the life they love. Like, I'm going to have to convince my kids if I'm going to live the life I love, or I'm going to have to sacrifice something or give something up. Often if I even look at my own life and what I dealt with about living a life I love, I thought that I'm going to have to lose people in my life. Like my mom's going to get really upset because she had certain expectations of me. So there's always kind of some compromise or have to overcome something or settle for something if I'm ever going to live the life I want to live. Consider that you and I live like we have to live a certain way. Like if I am going to live my life, people are going to get upset. If I really want to do what I want to do, somebody's going to not like that because they've got their expectations of me. And if I do that, I'm going to upset somebody.
So one of the ways that people stop themselves, and if you look for yourself, I can find myself in that, is we stop ourselves by avoiding things. I mean, we avoid that conversation with our spouse or with our health, or we avoid looking at the finances and what you got to deal with, or we avoid that person at work, that you just don't want to talk to. But by avoiding it, we stop ourselves from actually dealing with what there is to deal with that's going to accomplish what we're out to accomplish. It just literally puts things off, and we're stopping ourselves. And I'm someone who's made a lot of mistakes in life. But what I've found is by taking that on and not avoiding things, I discovered that I can deal with whatever happens. And boy, life gets a lot simpler. And whatever you think you've been avoiding, you know what? It disappears as any significance. And, you get stuff handled. And life starts moving in the direction you're up to.
You could actually get inherently, it doesn't mean anything. There's just automatically what you're living in is a story for what you're making it mean, which is not the truth. There's what actually happens in life. Then there's what you and I are saying to ourselves about what happened. And where you get stuck is not in what happens. It's what you're saying to yourself about what happened, that you're now living as if the truth of what happened is what you said to yourself.
Well, the main thing is, look, without a foundation, without the integrity of what you create will fall apart over time. Integrity is the foundation that holds up what you're building. I mean, heck, if someone doesn't have a very powerful foundation for their house is going to fall apart. If you take your life like a house, you got different aspects of your house, different aspects of your life. But if there's no foundation, no solidness for it, how's it going to stand up? And integrity is not morality. It's not sincerity. It's not ethics. Integrity is purely the black and whiteness of your foundation for finances, well-being, relationship. My marriage has such a strong foundation that I don't worry about it. I can just enjoy the marriage.
One of the key things that is important if we really examine together of what's going to be critical to living a life we love is actually what we would say honoring oneself, honoring one's word as oneself. If I want to live a great life, and one of them is the possibility of, say, loving the people in my life, no matter how they be, when push comes to shove, there's going to be those moments of truth where someone's upset at you and you're either going to keep your word to be loving in that moment or make them all wrong. And I think we all can relate to those moments of truth. Or, okay, I'm going to, live a balanced life. And we create that and then we don't honor our word. And then the boss comes in and asks you, can you stay overtime? And you have a date night with your partner and then you give in because you're afraid that you're going to lose your job. Now, how are you going to live the life you love if you keep breaking your word to be that bold person that's going to say something to your boss like, you know what, it's not going to work, but I promise we come back tomorrow. Let's get to the source of this breakdown forever so we don't keep living a life where we compromise with our marriage and our families, and you get to go home too.
The way I would say it is that we've learned to live with life the way it is. We just learn to live with it. It's not like we're going, I'm just going to live with it the way it is. For the most part, we're getting on with life and we're doing the best we can inside of the world we wound up being and the way we wound up being in that world. And we have learned to live with that. In fact, for many of us, we've got results that aren't that bad. In fact, in many cases, pretty good. But we've learned to live with that world. We're not aware of what could be really possible outside of it. The forum is what allows you to be able to see that there's nothing wrong with the way you are, and there's nothing wrong with what you have accomplished. In fact, for the most part, you've accomplished some really great stuff. But it allows you to see what's possible beyond that. And that's what's exciting. And that's what's inspiring.